A little tired over there? You're breathing heavy.
I'm just preparing myself.
You're very excited about camera gear.
Deep breath. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Daniel, you're not ready because I have a pre-show.
That's too many levels. That's too deep. We're not going to have time for that.
Yes, we do. It's fine. I'll start the timer somewhere. Hold on, wait. Where is it? Click my watch. Go to stopwatches and start. Okay.
Stopwatches and start.
I got my new Apple TV came in.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yep. And I was a little paranoid that maybe it was like I bought it off eBay, so I figured somebody probably opened it up and like hacked it. Now that someone's stealing everything off of my internal network.
Either that or it has bed bugs in it. Those are the two options.
I mean, probably both.
You didn't even
honestly,
consider that. I could tell by your face. Yeah.
I haven't like opened it to check for bed bugs or like
or Chinese listening
credit
devices.
cards, skimmers, or microphones or whatever.
Yep. Just hoping for the best there.
But it's really made using HomeKit like actually good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like nothing's like faster than it was before, but it unlocks the automation page, which
I didn't realize you couldn't do that if you had just the phone.
Yeah, and I kind of had forgotten you couldn't, and so I've been able to do things like link my smart switches to Hue stuff so that whenever certain lights come on, other lights come on, and sometimes only during certain daylight hours, and so it's like sometimes they're linked, sometimes they're not, and
that's cool.
I was like, oh, sweet. I can like set up all these things that I've been not able to do for a while. And because I haven't gotten around to like doing a universal home automation integration thing. And now I can just like do the HomeKit thing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I have an Apple TV 4K with Thread radios sitting in a closet.
It's funny that that's the cheapest way to do it. But I mean, it's honestly not that bad of a solution. I know it's a little on the expensive side, but what you pay like $80 for it?
Yeah, somewhere between $60 and $80. I can't remember. I think it was like $80 after shipping and everything.
Yeah. Honestly, it's not terrible.
Yeah, and it's everything works now, and I can like change my lights from outside my house, like almost like it's 2018 and I have a Pixel phone.
Well, I'm glad you got that all set up. I do that with HomePod Minis, which can also act as the thing. But then those have a microphone in them, so who knows who's listening to it.
I thought HomePod Minis were like $50, and they're $100.
Yeah, you can get them on sale sometimes. I think I got some for $75 or $80, something like that. But yeah, they're in that range.
Anyway, this is where the jingle would go, and then no, not that jingle. The jingle for the pre-show, because now we'll have to get to the pre-show, which is actually about jingles. I think that I'm going to get AI to make some jingles for all the different pre-shows, and I'm going to get a soundboard app for my iPad so that I can play all the pre-show jingles.
If you do that, I think it would at minimum be a funny segment, but we should definitely make that happen.
So yeah,
I'm on board.
That's on my to-do list.
Yep.
Okay, now we can get into the actual pre-show.
Okay.
Which is I lost my keyboard case for my iPad for a really long period of time.
How does that even happen?
And I was going to tell you about how annoying it was that I haven't been able to find my keyboard case for my iPad for like a week and a half, but then I found it before I left the house, so it's fine.
Biggest question is, did you find that lost 16mm lens?
No, it's I was hoping that when I found the keyboard, I would find that. That's still lost. The other thing that's lost is I can't find my Lando Norris hat, and that's going to become pretty critical because F1 starts up in about a week. And if I don't find that,
is that orange hat you were really proud of?
Yeah.
You didn't get it that long ago. You had that for like 2 weeks.
It's not like lost. I just have to find it. So
you need to work on your personal organization here, man.
During the Austrian Grand Prix, I took my hat off, and then Lando Norris and Max Verstappen ran into each other, almost right away.
And you haven't been able to find the hat since then?
No, not since then. I wore it like 4 days ago, and I just have to put it somewhere. It's probably like in a vehicle or something. Point is, I have like 8 days to find that. Probably less because I don't think it's a sprint weekend, but I think it's qualifying will be on Saturday, so. Anyways, yeah, I have 8 days to find it. It's very important.
Is that keeping you up at night?
I mean, not yet, but
it will be.
Like mid next
5.
week, if I don't have my Lando hat, we're not gonna be in good shape.
Well, I hope you stop losing things. Seems like a problem.
It's never gonna happen. It's just gonna get worse.
Yeah, probably.
We're almost there. Pre-show,
going one level up.
This one's yours. This
one's mine. I don't. Do I get pre-shows? I don't know what to do with
You're
this information.
You're gonna warm this puppy up by talking about this space photographer. See, we're getting closer to photography stuff the closer we get to the actual show.
So, by the way, the link that you have in the show notes, I was like, what did I share, is not the space photographer.
Oh, that's not the link?
It's a different thing.
Wait, is this like, is the space photographer like a separate, totally secret pre-show?
I guess so, because I know I sent that to you, but it's not in here.
We don't have time for it. We'd have to go back and then retroactively add pre to all these other shows. We can't do this.
We can't.
What is this?
We'll come back to the space photography thing. This one was a guy at the Olympics. His name is Hector Vivas. And he did this series of photos at the Olympics this year that were, I don't know, like it's like a multiple exposure type thing, but he basically took a lot of the events, like for example, like a track event, like a sprint or something. And he did multiple exposures. And so you have like this line of guys running, but you see them repeated, multiple times down the track in one photo. We'll post the link in the show notes.
This is kind of awesome.
It's a really clever idea, and there's one with horses. Is that like dressage or something? There's one with gymnastics and I guess fencing is that last one. But I've never seen pictures like this before, and I think it's super creative. And there's so many people that go to the Olympics and take photos, and I feel like this guy found a way to make his unique.
They're all very well framed too. Like some of these are super on center, which makes me happy.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one with the horses is the pentathlon, which is not exciting. As a seasoned triathlete myself, I like triathlons, and I think it's like cool and exciting. And so I was like, a sport with 5 events, even more extreme.
And one of them involves
the events. Horse? The events are horse racing, not horse racing, like horse jumping, fencing, running, swimming, and something else that's like weird, like badminton.
Interesting. Okay. So
it's a little strange.
I mean,
and they take like breaks between, and so I'm like, what are we doing? I want to see them like get off the horse and jump into the pool
for sure.
Like jump into the pool with the horse, and then they have to keep swimming.
That would be way cooler.
Yeah.
I mean, this looks pretty chaotic to me, but it's also, I think, like 15 pictures stitched together, so maybe that's part of why it looks chaotic.
It almost reminds me of like a family circus cartoon.
Yeah, it kind of does. Or a Where's Waldo type thing.
Yeah. A lot of that energy here.
Yep.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I like creative photography, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like, I think, especially with something like sports, it's really easy to think about it as being like very journalistic, like you're just capturing this, you want to be like very true to life and not, make anything up or
Capture
whatever.
The moment.
I think it's cool to see some creativity in it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, even more camera focused for the actual pre-show here.
Now this doesn't say pre-show.
You're right. This is the pre-show. This is very different.
I don't know if that's a typo or not, but I'm going to assume it's not.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
So like 80% chance I'm going to a jiu-jitsu match tomorrow.
Are you going to be competing?
No, Daniel. Jiu-jitsu is not one of my sports.
No. Okay. Yeah, you're a triathlete.
Exactly. I only do 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of it, there's a jiu-jitsu match. You're just really tired and like super wet. You're like, all right, let's do jiu-jitsu.
Super tired and super wet. Perfect combination for jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm. No, my nephew is going to compete in a jiu-jitsu match.
Oh, that's
cool. So I was like, well, if I can go and I haven't told him I was going to take pictures, but I could take pictures of these. I don't know, like 8-year-old boys just wrestling on the ground.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's better or worse than taking pictures at a park.
I think it's probably a little bit better.
It's more appropriate.
It's like at a sporting event,
right?
It feels,
Yeah. So I was gonna bring like my 50 to 140, my teleconverter to see if I can get some like super tight shots.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. I bet they'd appreciate that.
I was wondering if you had any ideas for me here. My plan was to shoot with Fuji's flagship camera, the XH2S.
Mm-hmm. I mean, clearly you need that autofocus.
Yeah, that class-leading autofocus.
Yeah. I mean, the only better choice would be, something like an X-T5, that 40 megapixel.
I was wondering if I should like borrow that for this thing, even though I technically really just need to buy it from you.
Yeah. I mean,
if I should buy that from you.
Yeah. It's right in the other room if you want to buy it.
That's very true.
Yeah.
I think
I don't think I really have any specific advice. I mean, I bet you'll get some cool stuff.
I mean, should I shoot with like a really wide aperture lens, like Should I borrow your 75 millimeter 1.2 and just like 1.2 that puppy?
I feel like it's going to be hard to get close enough with that. Like, I feel like the 50 to 140 as a teleconverter is probably the right choice.
The 80 millimeter supports the teleconverter, the macro,
cool.
and supposedly that lens is really, really sharp. Not supposedly, it actually is really, really sharp.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kind of had fun shooting that as like a 160 prime, but it's like 5.6, and there's not really a reason to shoot with that versus the zoom.
Yeah, because the zoom's also going to be with the teleconverter is going to be like a 5.6.
Yeah,
right?
and it covers 80 millimeters. There's like literally no reason.
Yeah,
to
and
shoot
it's a
with
very
that.
good lens too.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I just want a reason to shoot the 80 millimeter on the. I just need to sell that lens. I wish I could sell that lens.
Don't use it enough. But it's like for that one specific purpose, and there's nothing else that'll do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Purpose, so.
Sigh.
Yeah, I guess you're just gonna have to keep another Fuji lens.
I have too many Fuji lenses.
You got quite a few.
There was a rumor that they were going to come out with, or that they're working on, / the next lens they're working on, is a replacement for the standard zoom, that's 16 to 55.
Yeah, I think I don't know if we mentioned it or not, but I've definitely seen that rumor.
Yeah, you've seen the rumor. We haven't talked about it. I think that when that lens comes out, I'm going to sell my standard zooms and just buy that lens.
Interesting. You getting rid of both the 17 to 70 and the 18 to 50?
Yes, consolidate.
Yeah. I could see that being reasonable.
I
mean, it depends on what the lens is, right? Like, let's see what they come out with. But
yeah, TBD. It's kind of dumb that I have both of those lenses.
I kind of feel the same way. And especially if I sell you the XT5, I could see getting rid of one of those. Because, I mean, why do I need two standard zooms with...
Yeah, the driving choice for me to keep the 17 to 70 has been because XT3 doesn't have IBIS in it. And so having like a stabilized standard zoom for that camera has been nice.
Mm-hmm.
But once I procure your camera, then that won't be a thing.
Yeah,
so
true.
Whatever.
It would be nice to be free of that 17 to 70, wouldn't it?
It sure would.
Like I told you at our shoot on Saturday, sometimes I'm changing lenses and I'm holding the 17 to 70 and, don't always have the best grip on the lens when you're changing it and, might slip out of your hand. And I sometimes find myself wondering if I'd really be that upset if I dropped it and broke it.
Can you free that lens from the toils of this mortal world?
Welcome back to the Camera Gear Podcast. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Lucas.
And we're here today to talk about the gear, software, and techniques we use to shoot photos and video.
I think like maybe one episode or two episodes ago, we were talking about normal field of view lenses.
Yeah.
And I kind of overarchingly claimed that there's no modern like 40 millimeter lenses for cameras now. Mm-hmm. And that's not exactly true. And I feel like we should just loop back for like 1 second and mention that there are 40 millimeter lenses that you can buy from modern mirrorless cameras.
So what are some examples of that?
There is the new Nikkor 40 millimeter f2, which is a really nice representation of a pancake lens.
Is that like the kit lens that comes with the Nikon FC?
I don't think it's a kit lens. You have to actually buy it, but they will prepackage it as a kit. And it's like a good little like 40 millimeter, prime.
I mean, f2 is pretty good. Yeah,
definitely. And then Sony has a similarly sized, slightly larger 40 millimeter 2.5 G. Not G Master, just G. Mm-hmm. And then Sigma makes a honker 40 millimeter 1.4 art.
Of course they do.
And like that one's only on here as like because they actually do make it for E and L mount, but technically it's a DSLR lens that they just integrated the mirrorless adapter to, so it has a really huge flange length.
Interesting.
Because they make it for EF and SA mount.
Whatever that is.
It's the old Sigma mount or whatever, whenever they had a Sigma mount. Before the L mount alliance. So if you look at the E mount thing, the distance from like the back glass to the mount is it's like 10 inches.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that Sigma makes a prime in that focal length because it feels like Sigma makes a prime in every focal length. But
fact.
Yes. That's cool.
Yeah, so there are 3 modern mirrorless 40 millimeter lenses, not counting the APS-C versions because we did mention the Fujifilm f27mm f2.8, which is basically 40 millimeters. And so I'm not listing APS-C lenses, just full frame.
Yeah.
There are basically Sony or Nikon.
Yeah. Well, some options if you really want that particular field of view that some people seem to think matches human vision.
I guess not enough. I guess people just don't want human vision lenses.
I mean, it's kind of a weird focal length. Like you really don't see 40 millimeters that much. So I'm not surprised there aren't that many, but
Well, that was
it
like
makes
the
sense
point
to me.
last time, right? It's like we used to see it all the time, and now you just don't.
Yep.
I didn't even I went on like B&H and I searched for 40 millimeter lenses. Surprised that there wasn't a Leica M or L mount.
Yeah, a little bit. I guess that Sigma is the one that is L mount.
Yeah, but definitely not for Leica.
Yeah.
Like it's huge. It's huge. Anyway, that's not a correction or follow up.
Yep. You're not saying you were wrong, but now you're more right than you were last week.
Adding a little more context. That's all we're doing here. Yep.
Well, you mentioned pancakes.
Yep.
And speaking of that, I found this link recently that I sent to you that I thought you would find interesting.
Definitely.
So we talked about that Lumix S9 a while back, which is their, new full frame kind of point and shoot-esque camera. I mean, it has interchangeable lenses, but it's like a more compact sort of deal. And they have that pancake lens that they're kind of offering as a kit with it. It's a 26 millimeter lens, and it's f8, which just seems ridiculous. Like, why do you want an f8
Constant
lens?
aperture, manual focus,
Yep.
plastic. It's a conundrum. I don't understand why that lens.
Yep. But all is well, because you can open that lens up and take out some little plastic piece and make it f4. So what's up with that? I was curious what you thought about this.
I don't understand what's happening optically, that you can just like open up the lens and remove the front aperture patch.
I mean, it looks like a plastic washer. Like I've never heard of an aperture patch.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't know what that is. I don't know why this works. I would assume that Panasonic chose f8 due to focal distance. Like if you're shooting a manual focus pancake garbage lens that is manual, like I said manual focus already, but manual focus, you're going to zone focus it. You're going to kind of like set it and forget it or whatever.
I agree. I'm sure that's why it's f8.
Yeah, like you want to be able to have it just be like 3 feet to infinity and then just shoot. And that kind of matches with what this camera is maybe intended for.
Yeah, I think so.
Once it's f4 on full frame, you're going to get low enough depth of field that you're going to have to turn that focus ring. And I think that wasn't what they intended. And so they purposely slowed up the lens, I guess. I don't know.
They just inserted this little plastic thing and somehow made the aperture go from f4 to f8.
Man, they're just like putting this thing together and they go, it's not slow enough. Got to slow this puppet down.
I was just curious when you saw this video, since you've seen the video, how many of
There's
your
a video? I only saw the pictures.
I thought there was a video. But regardless, since you have learned this information, how many of your own lenses have you opened up to see if they contain a similar aperture patch that you could take out to upgrade the lens?
0, Daniel.
Okay, but
0.
But like, how mad would you be if it turned out that Tamron 17-70 was actually an f1.4 lens, but they had put some little plastic piece in there to limit it to 2.8?
I have no response to that. It's no, Daniel.
I'm just saying, I think you should open it up to make sure.
Also, no. I would never get it put back together.
I'd love to see you try, though.
Jeez. Speaking of opening things up.
Okay. I don't think we planned that, but that was a very good segue.
Thank
you. Gotta give you points for that. You were definitely, after almost 2 years, you were definitely a professional podcaster.
Ooh, watch out.
Yep. Anyway, please continue.
There was a Pentax 17 teardown video that made it onto the YouTubes. And we have the link here in the show notes, I guess. I should have written down what the person's name was instead of just linking it and going, I don't know, it's on YouTube. They ripped this puppy apart.
Yeah, they did. Like all the way.
Well, most of the way. And I feel like there's a little more to talk about here.
I thought you might.
So let's talk about Pentax 17.
I sent you this link. And I knew when I sent you this link, you're going to want to talk about it. And I didn't really think about, this turning into yet another episode of the film photography podcast. But here we are.
Just wait till we get to the next topic. It's also about film cameras.
Oh, no. All right. Tell me more about the Pentax 17.
I think that we're getting really close to that time of year whenever my mother texts my wife and says, what does Lucas want for his birthday? And I think what I'm going to tell her is for them to find weird film stocks online and buy those for me for my birthday. Just like find the most obscure thing that's not Kodak Gold or Fuji and just buy that.
Do you think that your mom is deep enough in the hipster film photography world to be able to pull that off?
No, but like if my dad can find like some Lomography film stock, like Summer 92 or some street candy film stock, or if he can find that Santa 100, like if I was just like, buy me a weird film stock and they find Santa 100, it's going to be the best birthday ever.
That's a good point.
Like if I don't tell them and they hand me a thing and I open it up and it's Santa 100.
Oh my gosh.
It'd be like I was seen for the first time. Anyways, speaking of opening things up. Okay, so they took the camera apart, like 1,000 screws or whatever, decently disassemblable. But I guess like one thing that was noted, the focus ring, you open it up and you can actually see like the focus mechanism switch between the different positions for the lens. There's nothing in between. There's no like discrete. You're not like setting it to person and the camera's like working within a range for focusing on like the zone focus setting for the lens. And so it's just basically just like set positions, which we kind of knew already because it like clicks between the 5 positions for focusing.
So what you're saying is it's not a continuous focus pull from like 0 to infinity. It's like there's these preset focus positions.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. There's basically 5 positions. Mm-hmm. I think that's what it was because it was like mountains, 3 for people, which would be 4, and then there was food and then a flower. So maybe there's 6. Anyways, they're like set positions. Mm-hmm. There was some talk of like maybe computationally, whenever it goes to do a focus thing, it's considering like what's in the frame and what it's focusing on, and then it adjusts the aperture to kind of increase or decrease the depth of field. But otherwise, like the actual focus location is basically fixed. There's no like secret movement of focal as it's focusing, because like whenever you half press, even though like you set it to person or whatever, you'll hear it like do a thing before you shoot, at least from like the reviews I've seen. And I think that's more of it just kind of like dialing in the aperture. It's not dialing in a focal length. Those are essentially like fixed positions. Okay. So we got confirmation on that. It seems fairly disassemblable. It kind of said that. It looks like super complex, but it wasn't crazy getting this thing apart. He did have to peel the leather sticky stuff that goes on like the grip of the camera off.
I don't think that sort of thing's too uncommon.
No, you have to replace that anyways long term. But it just seems, everything in there seems very well thought through. Like they were meticulous, it seems, in the design of this thing, and it wasn't just like they slapped like a bunch of old parts together and like reshipped a camera. This thing looks ground up new. I
agree. I mean, there's a lot of it's a weird hybrid between film cameras, I guess traditionally were, not really all that electronic. At first I guess they weren't at all, and then, eventually they started adding more electronics. But I mean, there's quite a bit going on in there in terms of like circuit boards and stuff, and it mostly looks like it was, bespoke, like custom made for that. I agree, it doesn't seem slapped together. It seems like they really did quite a bit of engineering on this.
Yeah, like they don't seem to be using like commodity parts or things they had in the parts bin or whatever. There's like ribbon cables and like actual circuit boards with computation happening. It's like it's a digital film camera basically.
And it's very compact in there too. I mean, they really pack stuff in.
Yeah, so it's just kind of cool to see a lot of the modern things that we see in digital cameras coming to film, because like if you opened up a Nikon F2, you wouldn't have this kind of circuitry in there necessarily.
Sure, definitely.
So it was cool to see what this looked like whenever they took it apart. He had to discharge the flash obviously whenever he was taking it apart, and it was like 150 volts on his voltmeter. So
yeah, watch out for that.
Yeah, they had like a little bit of tape over those contacts so they don't kill yourself whenever you. I mean, you wouldn't kill yourself, but still.
Yeah, it'd wake you up.
Yeah, you sure would. Sure would. The film advance on the lever is truly mechanical. It's not like a lever and then it's doing it with like a motor or electronic.
What do you think about that? Is that better or worse?
I mean, I think that what Pentax was going for here is they were trying to merge like the tactile feel and manual experience of shooting with film with like the conveniences of digital auto exposure. And they were trying to bring this to people who necessarily are just getting into film photography, trying to make it as cheap as possible as far as like doing the half frame thing and that sort of stuff. And so I think that as far as the tactility,
I don't know if that's a word, but we'll go with it.
cool. I think that it being manual was very important. And I think it's cool. I think it's really cool that they were able to make all that work and they didn't just say like, it would be easier if it was just on a solenoid.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would have been really disappointed if you turned the lever and then like it was like wind by wire or whatever.
And if there was like some like if there was a delay,
Yeah.
you hit the lever and then a second later it finally.
Oh, that'd be so frustrating. You have to like turn your film camera on and off again because it didn't wind whenever you winded the lever.
Yeah.
Gets off sync. Oh, jeez.
Are there reviews on this thing yet?
Yeah, there's plenty of reviews on the Pentax
Okay.
17. Most of the major outlets got one and did one. I mean, like Petapixel has one. There's a lot of reviews out there. The images are fine. They're not like blow your mind, good or anything like that. They're decent. Like the lens is a decent lens. It's like f3.5, whatever, 28 millimeter, I think,
Yeah. Well, those fixed
or
focus
22 millimeter.
the fixed focus positions is a little bit of a limitation, but yeah, I mean, it seems like this camera is more about the experience than necessarily like image quality.
Yeah, the zone focusing basically works, and you just kind of let it do its thing as far as shooting at the slowest aperture it can. And I think that the half frame makes it really approachable. And it's like the resolution of the half frame photos that you're going to get off of this are going to be nothing compared to a modern digital camera. It's not like whenever we talk about shooting like medium format where like effective resolution is monumental. This is going to be essentially worse in every way.
So you think like actually the megapixels and such of the pictures will be pretty low?
Yeah, the actual like what's the real resolution of this photo? Like if I scan it in the highest quality possible, like how much resolution can I realize out of a half frame photo off of Pentax 17? It's not like it won't be anywhere near like 26 megapixels or anything like that.
Okay,
it's not going to be that good. It'll be, if I had to guess, it's probably going to be in the order of like 6 megapixel type image. Like if you imagine like a 6 megapixel digital camera.
I guess I didn't realize that. I didn't know that.
I mean, I'm just throwing out numbers and mostly guessing here, but based upon like the images that I've seen and that sort of stuff, it's not super, super good. Like if you want high resolution film, you got to shoot like a really fine grain, like a 100 speed, and then basically shoot in like 6.45 or 6.7.
Ah, I see.
Anyway. So like it's the reason you shoot this is it's for the vibes, Daniel.
yes, this is the vibe.
It's like if you were doing if this Pentax 17 was like a video game character and you were doing stats on it, I guess that would be like you call it like a D&D thing, I guess too. I'm mostly thinking like Fallout or a Bethesda game.
And you're mixing a lot of metaphors right now.
Anyways, whatever. And you had to like pick between like your resolution and your sensor speed and other kind of things on all of the stats for the camera. The Pentax 17, like everything would be left at default, and then all of the available points you would just stick into the vibe column. So it's like plus 10 vibes, and then minus 1 everything else.
Well, after that incredible explanation, I'm sure everyone understands.
Yeah, just follow me. Follow me to the end. Anyways, it was really cool. I don't know. There's not too much else that was super worth mentioning that we don't already know about this thing. It's just kind of coming off of the teardown. It's like, it seems like they really cared. And all the marketing stuff that Pentax pushed out about, we're doing this film project and like, we're trying to relearn how to make these things. It's like they took what they knew, they took modern things on top of it and kind of combined it together to make what a actual 2024 film camera could be. Yeah. And here it is. And I think it's really neat.
Yeah. I think it's cool too. It's impressive to see the engineering that clearly went into it.
I was trying to think of what questions to ask you about this whole teardown thing. And really the main thing I wanted to get into here was my Pentax future.
Well, tell me more.
We've already talked about how my birthday's coming up and that I've been dropping hints that maybe I need a Pentax 17.
Well, and you just talked about wanting some weird film stocks, but I mean, you need a camera to shoot with those weird film stocks, right?
Exactly. I think that's not going to happen now, mostly because I bought a bicycle that was not super, super cheap. And I was like, dear wife, I don't think it's reasonable for you to spend $500 on a camera for me, even though I super duper wanted it because I just bought this bike and it's like super close to my birthday and that would be a lot of money. And she was like, yeah, that's reasonable.
Well, you know, as they always say, Christmas is right around the corner.
That's true. And they probably wasn't available anyway. That's not true. There was that camera store with a K.
Yep. Do you think this is a camera that you want to get eventually?
Yes, I want a Pentax 17 like so bad. I've been wanting a half frame camera. I love that it's new. I want to support what Pentax is doing. Absolutely, a Pentax 17 is in my future. Yep. I super duper want to buy one. But what I did learn though is similar to cameras, bike world is like crazy.
What do you mean?
It's just, I mean, the hole that you can go down to. Daniel, I learned so many things about stack and reach and like the pedal stuff and the, what do you call it? What's the gear assembly stuff called? Like the whole drivetrain thing?
I mean, you're the one that did all this bike research.
Yeah, but now I'm starting to forget about it because I don't care.
This is how you buy everything, though. Like you've always been I'm going to make some spreadsheets. I'm going to learn everything, optimize that decision. That's just how you are.
It's true. And I've been looking at like bike accessories now, spending some time on like bike Reddit.
You're trying to find like the thinnest, smallest seat you can get.
Well, so I got like a drop bar bike because my current bike was like a flat bar hybrid, and so I got more of like an endurance / roadish type of bike, and group set. That's the word I was looking for earlier. It's got I had to like pick between like a Soar group set, a Jagger group set. It was like a whole thing. So I bought this bike. Now I want to get like a rack for the back because I've always thought about getting a better rack. But since I'm getting a new bike, now I have to like bike everywhere, and I'm gonna become a bike commuter probably. And so I have to get like a rack for the back of it. And then I got to figure out how to mount my Timbuktu bag to the back of it. So I've been looking at like bike rack bags and like how to mount bags to the bike. And I feel like we should start a bike gear podcast.
Well, it's funny that you should mention that because as you were going through this monologue just now, the only thought in my mind was trying to visualize the Venn diagram between people who care about the Pentax 17 film camera and people who know a lot about drop bar bikes.
Okay, there's a guy.
I feel like it's probably a perfect circle.
I thought you were going to say the opposite, but because there was a guy on our bike and he's like, day like 4,735 of riding my bike every day until I don't feel like it. And he posts like an artistic picture of his bike somewhere. Like, here's a very symmetrical, like white wall, red wall, and the bike's over there. And it's like, whatever. And he just like posts a picture every day to Reddit on his bike ride. That's like he's a photographer. He's like obviously a photographer. So yeah.
I'm just saying, I think there's a strong overlap between people who care a lot about bikes and people who care about film cameras. And now we're talking about both of them. So
yep. You're going to see those ratings shoot through the roof. More bikes, please.
I don't know if that's going to happen.
Like, people who are into bikes, like the speeds and the gear ratios, it gets like so deep, and like everything's in millimeters. Like I was trying to like pick between two sizes of a bike, and I'm like, do I go with the smaller one or go with the bigger one? Like I can work with the like standard height of the bigger one, but I'm kind of wonder if I should get the smaller one, and I'm like trying to decide. I'm like reading everything about everything, and it's like the difference between like the reach on these two bikes is like 4 millimeters or something like that.
And everybody's like, this makes a huge difference.
Or like centimeters or
whatever. You have to make sure you get the right one or you'll regret it.
Exactly. Like, well, if you can like adjust your bike only so much, but if you get the wrong bike size, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you can only go 3 millimeters in either direction.
Yep.
You know,
everyone's
so
like,
if you're 4 off, that's a big problem.
Got to go to a professional bike fitter or whatever. It's just, it's a whole thing, Daniel. And so I'm like deep in bike world right now.
Deep in bike world.
But I mean, I did buy the bike, which is the main thing.
But you're still deep in bike world. Because
now I'm worried about that I bought the wrong bike. Not the wrong. Like I'm confident about the right bike, but I'm worried that I needed a 58 instead of 61.
You've been living your life there being like, Lucas, you're so tall. And then now you're wondering if maybe you got a bike that's too big. That's interesting.
A little bit. Just like a little bit. I think it's fine, but I'm going to have to like test drive it. This is, anyway. It's just a whole thing. It's a whole thing, Daniel.
I'm stressed just thinking about it.
But I'm really excited about the concept of buying like the rack mount thing for the back of it. And then I'm going to put my Timbuktu on the back and I'm going to like strap it down. It's going to be perfect.
If you say so.
Yep. And then I got to put my film cameras in it. And then I can ride. If it was single speed, I should go get like
if it was a fixie, that'd be totally on brand.
Film
camera.
That'd be so perfect.
Yes, it would.
Maybe that's what I need next. After I get the Pentax 17, I'll get a single speed. and it'll be perfect.
No.
I'll paint it with spray paint.
Yep.
I'll like take it apart and like spray paint the frame a bright color.
You're really
My future is so bright.
you're really descending into some depths on this podcast. All right, let's get back to camera gear.
All right, let's talk about more film cameras.
I'm just gonna go sit over here and let you talk for a while.
Okay, so the Rollei 35 AF, the one that MiNT is making.
Yeah, I kind of get that and the Pentax 17 confused sometimes. It's like we've got these two new film cameras coming out.
They're so different. How could you get them confused?
I know they're different, but it just seems like film photography is having like a resurgence moment. And
One
those
could
are,
only hope.
The two big ones.
It's like there's a flame now, and we just got to fan that puppy. It's like it was just kind of dead for a while, and now there's a little bit of flame going. We just got to fan that flame. Fan it.
Yeah. People can't see, but you're fanning right now.
I am. Throw some film stocks on there. Boy, that thing would go up.
Oh man, no kidding.
Watch out. Anyways, so we know that the MiNT is the Rollei 35 is coming, and like pre-order is September. 2 YouTube videos have surfaced of hands-on with the Rollei 35 AF.
And you watched both of them 5 minutes after they came out.
Well, like within a day.
Close enough.
This is very important, Daniel. Like the amount of information that MiNT has made available, mostly they've been posting to like, what's that site again?
Instagram.
No, the one where people write stuff, Medium. Like Medium and on their blog or whatever. Like, hey, look, this is how things are going. But like not super dense amounts of information on the tech that's going on.
Marketing fluff.
Just like not enough detail. Like not enough, like not camera podcast detail level of detail.
Well, there aren't that many people providing that, but
right. Anywho, so like we know that it's a 2.8 35mm lens. We know that it's built after the Rollei 35. We kind of know how it was going to come apart just because of how the Rollei 35 like original one came apart. But from this hands-on here, like I'm just going to go through like a list of things we learned, then I'm going to ask you a few questions. Or feel free to chime in. You're like, okay.
I'll feel free, but don't wait on me.
You know how like most film cameras like open up from the back, and like you just kind of like hit the switch or you pull the wind lever and it opens up.
Yeah, I think I saw you trying to do this in Paris, and it didn't seem like it was going very well. So I guess it's hard sometimes.
Well, that's because I replaced the seals on the camera, and the seals are too thick, and so it just kind of jams shut.
Got to keep those seals oiled, man.
That's a Lucas. That's not.
Does that happen?
No, you don't oil the seals, Daniel. They're like whatever. Leica cameras, the bottom plate comes off, and then you like drop the film in and like pull it over. It's very bespoke. But the Rollei 35 was like you took the body apart. Like the whole...
That sounds time-consuming and complicated.
like
we just watched this video of somebody taking apart a Pentax 17. That did not look easy. You're telling me you have to do that, change film?
Okay, like slightly different, right?
Okay.
So like you pull a switch or whatever, and then it's like it's like this rectangle, and it's like a box in a shoe kind of thing, where like the outside cover just slides off. And then you're left with the exposed like camera stuff on the inside. If that makes sense in some sort of way.
Yeah, I kind of understand. I mean, like a computer case, maybe.
Sure, like a box in a box or whatever.
Okay.
You just slide, like it slides over.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so you like slide the bottom part off and like it exposes the back of the thing, and then like you have to like flip the pressure plate down, then you can put the film in. Interesting, kind of annoying to put back together. It's very tightly built as far as like tolerances, but it's cool that it's different.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just part of the experience of the Rollei 35, so, makes sense.
Right. It is manually wound, as we already knew. But the film advanced lever, I guess because it's so small and you have to get enough turn articulation, it turns like 270 degrees.
Is that, how long does a normal one turn? Less than that?
Now that I think about it, it's probably just a gear ratio problem. But like a normal camera, okay, so it kind of depends on the camera. But if I'm looking at like my Canon AE1, and as I'm holding it in my right hand and I advance the film, it's basically the full length of articulation of my thumb without like rotating my hand. Like if I held my hand on the grip and I don't move my grip and I articulate my thumb fully from the left all the way to the right, that's about the distance of
Yeah.
So I would say that's maybe like 30, 40 degrees.
I mean, yeah, because it's basically a leverage question, right?
Right. And then the Pentax 17, which you just talked about, it's even less than that. It's a very short advance.
Well, because that one's just half frame, so it doesn't have to advance the film as far.
About half as far, yeah.
Yeah, about that.
This one, it's like if you start turning it at, sorry, let me look at my watch, 4 o'clock, it turns to 2 o'clock.
I mean, so I want to make a joke that it takes 8 hours to advance the frames, but that is a long way. And I think you're probably right. I mean, it sounds like a gear ratio type thing, or basically like the lever between whatever you're actually moving and the axis is just really, really short. So you have to go a long way.
Here's the other perplexing thing. Every film camera that I've ever seen that has a manual advance lever on it, that's a rangefinder like this. The viewfinder's on the left, which this one is. Mm-hmm. And the wind lever is on the right, which this one's not. The film advance lever and the film canister are on the left. And so you have film canister, and then above that, the viewfinder, and then above that, the wind lever. And I don't understand how that works.
Well, I mean,
because there's a rod that has to go from the film thing down. Mm-hmm. It was like the viewfinder's in the way, but it's not actually in the way. And I look at them like as they're doing this hands-on. I'm like, how? This is like a magic trick?
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Where does the rod go?
It's kind of strange that they would change that, because it feels like, I mean, I haven't shot with a film camera, but it seems like the kind of thing that you develop muscle memory for, and this seems like it would be completely different than every other camera.
If I was shooting on a film camera and I took a picture and I was like, now I want to take another picture, I could leave it up to my eye, roughly, and just go clink, and then shoot another picture.
Sure.
This one, the film advance is where you're looking. You have to take the camera away from your face, crank the thing all the freaking way around, then have it come back, and then you can take another picture. It is like clearly not built for taking more than one shot successively quickly.
Interesting. Which, maybe on film people aren't doing that as much, but it still sounds like it's just not as usable as most cameras.
It's so strange, because I mean, like, the Rollei 35 is a fairly old design, and it's like a compact design in itself, and it seems like maybe this is a compromise for how small it is. It's so stinking small.
What was the original one this way?
I think so, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, so it could just be that. Maybe it's just a physical limitation.
I would assume that they're trying to make this thing like the original, and so I would assume that this is a function of the original. And like, this camera is basically the size of your palm. Like, everyone look at your palm right now. The size of your palm. Like, from length to width, the width of the camera, that big.
Pretty small.
Yeah. If you got small hands, it's really small.
Yeah, if you're Donald Trump, then it's a pretty small camera.
Super tiny.
Mm-hmm. If you're Shaq, then not so much.
Yeah, it's just basically kind of a normal size camera at that point.
Yeah, a large one, even, Canon 1DX.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's somewhere between those two sizes.
Yes, somewhere.
Anyways. So maybe because it's very small, that's why they built it that way. But it just kind of seems like the kind of thing where you designed this camera in the 70s, and then 30 years of film development technology later, everyone realized that the film advance lever should be on the right side because it makes the most sense, especially with being an opposite of the viewfinder of a rangefinder style camera. And here we are.
Yep. I mean, and then you have to wonder, like, what would the right choice have been? I mean, even if they had the ability to put it on the right now, should they have done that for usability, or should they have left it on the left because that's true to the original, and everything about this camera is kind of like a resurrection of the original Rollei 35?
So, like, I get that they want to make this as authentic as possible to the original, but also it is a modern take on it. This thing has LiDAR.
Yeah, which the one in the 70s probably did not.
No. Well, like, that's super cool that it has LiDAR for autofocus.
Yeah, it is.
What?
It's almost like your Minolta.
I mean, that one uses IR.
Yeah. Those are the same thing, right? It's both light you can't see.
I mean, I think doesn't the L in LiDAR stand for lasers?
Yes, it does.
Lasers, Daniel. This film camera has lasers.
It's pretty cool.
I wish that I could dig in and talk about the LiDAR AF more, but that's like all we know. I didn't even know it had LiDAR autofocus system on it until these hands-on videos came out, because that's how slim the information has been on this thing.
Yeah.
And I really want to talk about this autofocus system like so bad, but I don't know anything about it.
It's pretty impressive that they're making a film camera that's that small, but still like managing to put in the motor and associated electronics for autofocus.
Yeah.
That's neat.
And so like you can shoot in autofocus in that way, and you can shoot in aperture priority. And this thing has a 2.8 35mm lens. So it's like a legitimately fast lens. You can set it in aperture priority and you have autofocus, and like that's really capable. And that's not necessarily something that the original Rollei had. I mean, it probably was manual exposure. I assume, I don't actually know that for sure. Manual exposure and manual focus. And so like they brought the modern features, but they left the film on the wrong side of the camera.
I don't know. I think it's cool. I would argue that maybe it was smart of them to leave it on the left, just because like, you know, that you get the modern features like autofocus. If you're taking pictures, they're going to come out, you know, probably sharper, and you know, maybe it's a little bit easier in that respect than the old one. But I mean, I feel like if you're buying a camera like this, you're buying it for the experience of using it. And I think matching the way the controls in the original one worked makes sense.
If you're advancing the film from right to left instead of left to right, does that mean you have to like scan it inverted?
That's a good question. I don't know.
It's a terrible question, Daniel. It's very ridiculous.
Is that not how that works?
Probably. Who knows? Okay, so if you're looking at this thing, if you're looking at the Rollei 35, which is like the tiniest little rectangle you've ever seen, it's like, once again, look at the palm of your hand, that big rectangle, super small. The top of it's like the top of the camera, pretty plain. You got the film advance thing on the left. On the right, you have the shutter button, which has a switch around it that will go from off to on to ISO. And when you switch to ISO, the little tiny circle OLED display on the camera, which is like big enough to show a couple numbers, will show you a digital representation of your ISO that you can then like select and set for your film.
When you say a digital representation of ISO, do you mean like a number?
Yes, it has a screen. It has a screen that like a little tiny circle screen.
Okay, but that screen is showing a number.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can set your ISO, and then whenever it's not showing the ISO, that screen tells you how many shots you have left. It has a digital shot counter.
Pretty impressive.
It's just, I feel like it's a weird choice. I'm surprised it's not mechanical. Like maybe that's just easier because it's smaller.
Yeah, I mean, well, and if they wanted to do the ISO thing, then now they're getting two for the price of one in terms of the size.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of cool. It's doing all this computational auto exposure stuff I would expect. So setting the speed of the film just digitally probably makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think so.
I just think it's kind of interesting going back to like the LiDAR thing. It's like modern technology in a film camera.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty cool. I'm curious to see how well that LiDAR works. I don't know if those videos covered that.
No, not at all. So kind of another point of interest here, at least to me, the front of it, if you looked at the front of the camera, there's a lens in the middle, and then there's two dials on the left and the right.
And that's like that pretty distinctive part of the Rollei design.
Yes, very much so. And I would have thought one of those would be the ISO. Like, why not? Each of the dials does two things. And both of the dials, one of the things is stupid. And I'm like, one of those could have been ISO.
So what do they do?
So I'm trying to like orient myself and also look for my notes. So, Daniel, I swear I wrote this down. Okay, there it is. All right. So if you're holding the camera, no, wait, the other way around. If you're looking at the camera and you're looking at the lens, on the left side is your number of exposures. So you manually set that to the number of shots on your film. Like if you bought a 24 roll versus a 36 roll.
I guess you have to give the camera that information somehow, right?
No.
Do you not?
You don't. Most film cameras, you just like go until it stops.
Well, and but I'm thinking about the shot counter. But I guess the shot counter could just show you how many shots you've taken, and then it's on you to know.
Which it does digitally on the little screen.
Yeah.
This is literally so that you remember how many shots you have left, or how many total shots that the film is.
Wait, so the dial doesn't do anything?
It doesn't do anything. It's just like a reminder thing. Kind of like, you know how film cameras will have a little slot in the back where you can like stuff the cutout from the box. Do you remember what film stock you're shooting?
This doesn't make sense to me.
It's the equivalent of that.
I thought that was to tell the camera so that it could set the digital shot counter correctly or something. But that's weird.
Maybe, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
Because on the right side, the similar, most front facing, because if you're looking at like top down on the camera, you'll see like the top of those circles, and those are something. But then if you like look at the front of the camera face on, you're looking at like the face of those circles, there's something else. And this is a face of a circle thing. The like the right side, well, you can set it to what kind of film you're shooting. Like if you're shooting color positive or color negative, like if you're shooting slide film.
And again, that shouldn't matter. Like it's not, the camera's not making decisions based on that. That's just to tell you what you put in there.
It seems to me like that's what it is. It's just a reminder for yourself, a little post-it note.
Weird.
One of those could have been ISO.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
Yes, that's strange.
So on the left side, back where the film exposure is, the top of that one is aperture. And so you can set in like aperture priority or whatever. And then on the other side, it's exposure compensation. So you can do plus minus whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe. So you can't shoot in full manual. You can basically shoot in full auto, or you can shoot in aperture priority. And when you're shooting in either one, your maximum shutter speed on this one is 1/500th of a second.
Which is not very fast for outside shooting.
Not really. I wish we could get a modern film camera. Like, it makes sense the type of film cameras that are being released now. Like this Rollei 35 and the Pentax 17, both geared towards, like they're less than $1,000. They're more than $500. Like, they're not cheap, but they are geared towards more casual film shooters, I think.
Yeah, like vibe cam.
Sure, yeah, totally. My AE1 goes at 1/1000, and that's limiting. That's frequently limiting. I wish to see Pentax come out with like a here's our more high end film camera, and let it be able to shoot like 1/4000 mechanical shutter. Like put a modern mechanical shutter in there. That would be super duper cool to get high shutter speed on film.
Yeah,
and I'm sure you can get up with like an old like a 1999 Nikon film camera.
Yeah. I'm sure there are cameras that do it, but it would be cool to see more capability there. Right.
It's slow. Like 1/500 is fine, but it's kind of slow. So whatever. This camera is still super duper cool, and it's definitely more of like a look and a style than like a camera, but also like the images that have come out. I think this thing is pretty decent. Like it's got a good lens. It's well sealed. It seems like things are coming in focus. You can shoot in aperture priority. It's very fast lens. So far, things look pretty good coming out of this thing. It's really exciting. Just, I wish we could get a faster shutter speed.
Yeah. And kind of what I think I've gathered from you is you're really interested in the Pentax 17. It seems like you think this one's cool, but you don't really see yourself getting this camera.
I want this one too, but if I had to pick between the two, I'd get the Pentax 17.
The Pentax 17 is cheaper too, right? This one's like $800.
Yeah, it's like $800 versus like $500, I think.
Yeah,
I might be off like 101 or the other way.
That's a pretty big difference though.
Like you're basically getting into one of the questions that I wanted to get into. So like, let's talk about that. Like this versus the Pentax 17. I feel like they're very different approaches to the same market. Like you're coming into a market of people want a cool fixed lens film camera to shoot film stuff and as like an auxiliary to their normal digital camera or, a vibe cam or whatever. And like both of these serve that market very well. Like I am like right in the hot market. Right. These are both for me. Like so bad. These are both for me, but they're just like so different.
Yeah.
The Rollei has autofocus, and it's like modern features and aperture priorities. You can shoot at 2.8 with autofocus. The Pentax is like just zone focus and f3.5. Just very, very different approaches to snapping photos and like just using the camera. And it's like one is kind of geared towards maybe a more, I don't want to say like techie, but like a more of like photo focused person, like someone who wants to shoot an aperture priority and like knows what that means, versus someone who just wants to snap a picture.
Yeah.
And so it's like there's a divide there as far as maybe more camera nerdy for the Rollei and less camera nerdy for the Pentax 17.
I can maybe see that.
Maybe. And the Pentax 17, like while looking mostly retro, is like seems fairly modern in itself. And the Rollei is just super retro
the
as far
Rollei
as
is
style.
Maximum retro. I'd say.
Yeah, so it's like as far as style goes and like looks of the camera and how you look with the camera, like the Rollei is leaning like way harder in that direction versus the Pentax.
The Rollei's going to look really good next to your fixed gear bike.
That's true. That's 100% true. And then we're looking at full frame versus half frame.
Yeah.
So like the Rollei seems geared towards someone who like wants the picture to be like, they want good photos. They want to be able to shoot it like, yeah, be able to pick their aperture f4, f2.8, and like control the depth of field. And they want it to look good and they want it to be full frame versus the Pentax is like, hey, you just want to get into film and you want the vibes. Like, sure, the pictures aren't going to be as good and they're going to be half frame, but like, you just kind of take it out and shoot. And and like the price point reflects that. And it seems like if so interesting, have split the market that I could see people like wanting the Rollei over the Pentax or vice versa. But it feels like they're different enough that you could justify having both for some crazy reason. Like one, I mean, they're different-ish, different enough focal lengths. But it feels like they're like different enough that I don't think they're going to steal market from each other is what I'm trying to get at.
I kind of agree. Yeah.
Is that like the people who don't want the Pentax 17 because it's half frame or because it doesn't have aperture priority, like here's the Rollei for you. Mm-hmm. And it's super cool. And it's got lighter autofocus and all that crazy stuff. But if like that's too expensive and you just want something that's cheaper but still new and get into film and you want to be able to optimize the cost of the film, Pentax is over there for you too.
Yeah.
So I think it's super interesting. I don't imagine that they planned against each other as far as like what these releases look like because like developments have basically been in tandem for the last like 4 years or whatever.
Yeah, there's no way. Yeah.
I find it super interesting.
I think so too. I mean, to me, the Pentax seems more compelling just because I think that in this day and age, I think shooting on film is necessarily more about like the experience and, dare I say, the vibes.
Lol.
Because it's just, I mean, there are so many advantages to digital that I feel like if you're doing professional work, you're more likely to be using a digital camera. So to me, any of these things are more about fun and more about the experience. And I mean, I can see appealing things about the Rollei 35, but it seems like it's compromised in a few ways with the film advance being, on the left instead of the right. And just the fact that it's so small. I mean, I feel like that's kind of making it feel to me like a everyday travel camera sort of situation. And I just feel like, why wouldn't I want something where I'm going to get twice as many shots? Like basically it's half the price to shoot. The camera's cheaper and, maybe I don't have to worry as much about my settings. Like it just seems like the Pentax is maybe a more casual camera and something that, you could just take some pictures with and have fun with, and you're not trying to optimize and get everything perfect and you're just enjoying it.
I think that the Rollei, like it isn't quite as sleek as a Contax T2, but it's almost smaller. Like it's smaller in a couple dimensions. It's slightly thicker. The lens doesn't retract. Mm-hmm. But to me, it seems like the kind of thing where if you are like a Contax T2 kind of person, the Rollei 35 would probably appeal to you as well, as far as features and looks and that sort of thing.
And is the Contax T2 another film camera?
Yes, Daniel.
Okay.
It sure is.
I mean, how would I know?
That is the Contax T2. You don't even know.
I don't. I actually don't.
You slide the front face and then the lens extends like an old like a mid 2000s model like point and shoot where it's like you slide it in half, the lens pops out. It does that. It's like cool. A 2.8 or 3.5 lens, but it's like I think it's a Zeiss lens, and so people buy those because the lens is really, really good. And I think some Kardashian or somebody had one at one point, and so they became
some Kardashian
extremely popular. And it is nearly impossible to get a Contax T2 for any sort of reasonable price.
Interesting. Okay.
It would be like twice as expensive as this Rollei 35.
Oh, wow.
Almost certainly.
Yeah. All because of the Kardashians.
Yeah, basically. I think we're almost out of time, Daniel, but there's a few more things that I wanted to mention here. So the tripod hole, it's got one, but it's not centered. And it takes a CR2 battery, and it has a light meter on the lens, which is where it should be. And it's got DX code reading pens in case you have film that so it can like auto detect the film speed.
Interesting. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. Sometimes it's been like on older cameras, it can be a little like iffy. And so hit or miss. It is nice though, because I mean, I've done it. Last time I shot film, I got 10 pictures into the roll, and I look down and I go, oh shoot, I have it set to 400 ISO and I'm shooting 200 speed film.
I can see how that would happen. Yeah.
Pictures turned out fine. like if you're shooting modern film, like if you're shooting like Ultramax 4, not like garbage film, but if you're shooting like Porta 400 or even Porta 800 Gs, but Porta 400, you got like 4, 5, 6 stops of latitude on that sort of stuff. Some stuff is like maybe not so much, like Phoenix 200. Boy, you can't really push that anywhere because it is really just, it's like so grainy. Did I talk about my scanned film?
Yeah, you said that it was very grainy.
The grain was like the size of my thumb. Anyway, but like that time I was shooting Fujifilm 400, and you could push that like 2 or 3 stops without really too much problem. And so like over underexposed, kind of changed development time, whatever. But if I had like DX code things on there, it would just like automatically set the speed for me.
That's pretty cool.
This has that to go along with like that little digital ISO dial.
Neat.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah. I wonder if that's why ISO is not on a dial, because of that feature.
Like on the Fuji?
No, on this camera.
Probably.
If it's reading the digital thing, then like how can you also have it on a dial? So,
right. Yeah. I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I just wanted to complain about it, but I think it's totally fine and kind of cool where it is, because like once you set the speed of the film, you're not going to really change it for the rest of your photos. So like, why like have it on the front where you could actually turn it?
Yeah.
Like, realistically, it's fine.
Yeah.
The film rewinder is on the bottom of the camera, which is weird in my opinion. It like folds down, but it doesn't like snap in or anything. It has like a little pin where it folds down out of, and then you can like turn it. And the little pin is the windy lever. But it seems like over time that could get loose and just like hang out.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Like gravity's not going to be the friend of your film wind lever on this camera.
Yeah.
So like those are the two things. Like the film being on the left side and the wind lever being on the bottom both seem weird to me.
Yeah.
Because it kind of felt like the whole camera industry decided that the film was always on the left side. Sorry, the right side. I'm getting it mixed up. You put the film on the right side. Have I been saying the left side the whole time?
Well, regardless, you're talking about where the lever is, right?
Anyways, whatever.
Normally the lever's
on the left side instead of the right side. Anywho, like the where the lever is and where the rewind thing is, we kind of settled on like this one has to be on the top and the advanced lever has to be on the right.
Yeah.
And it just isn't like that.
Yeah,
I think it's weird.
It's like in those two ways, they took a pretty big step back from where people have ended up.
Or just kind of counter what one normally sees, which maybe it makes this kind of like clever and bespoke, but I think that those things are like that for a reason on every camera.
Yeah.
And those may become annoyances with this one over time.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, there are so few choices in this particular niche that it's probably not going to be a deal breaker for anybody, but it's kind of a shame.
I mean, it wouldn't stop me from buying it.
Yeah.
I would totally buy this camera after I buy the Pentax 17.
Well, I guess you've got $1,300 of film cameras in your future.
Yep, I'm going to have to sell my bike.
That's it for the show today. Thanks for joining us, and if you liked it, tell a friend so they can check it out too. You can find out more about the show at www.cameragearpodcast.com, and you can find us on Twitter @CameraGearPod. We'll be back with more next week.